Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our latest webinar in AMATYC's 2021 webinar series, Student Research League, AMATYC's Modeling and Research Contest. We have a large panel today: Vinod Chelamuthu, Serkwang Chen, Karen Gaines, Max Cisneros, Talal Alzaini, and Noah Robles. This webinar is sponsored by the AMATYC Conference Committee. Any views expressed by the presenters are not necessarily the views of AMATYC, and commercial products mentioned are not endorsed by AMATYC. We would like to thank McGraw-Hill as the sponsor of this year's webinar series. If you are not a member of AMATYC but would be interested to join and see what all the membership affords you, please visit our webpage and consider joining. We do have quite a presence on Facebook and other social medias. Just search AMATYC. There are other professional development opportunities. We just finished this year's national conference, so everyone's already thinking about 2022 in Toronto. We have other webinars and traveling workshops throughout the year. And the recordings of the past AMATYC webinars can be found at our webinar page on the AMATYC website. So I will stop here, and Vinod, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Pat. Hope you guys can see my slides right now. All right, welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be talking about the AMATYC Student Research League. I'm the new coordinator for Student Research League, and I'm very thankful to Karen Gaines for teaching me and being with me for this time. And also, I would like to thank the 2021, the winning Grand Prize winning team with me, and I will introduce them as I move on, and Pat for a willingness to share his tips. So what are the goals of Student Research League? That's first thing we would like to know. So there are multiple competitions around this nation for mathematical modeling, but there is not anything in specific, particularly targeting on two-year college students. So this would be specifically, the AMATYC SRL is specifically for two-year college students. That's very important. And also, this would provide an opportunity for our students to think creatively outside the class. Because if you think about it, any employer are looking for students, they're not going to say just like this, okay, do problem number 5 from chapter 5, I'll give you $5,000. No one is going to say that. And they will be probably asking, saying, here's a problem, go and fix it. So for that, the employers or anybody is looking for students who can actually use the knowledge they learn from the class and solve the problem in the real world setting. So this competition would help them to get the training of thinking creatively. And also, this would help the AMATYC to reward outstanding student research problem solvers with scholarship and prizes at the individual and the team level. And also to recognize colleges with outstanding mathematics students at the national level. So these are the primary goals of the Student Research League. So it is fantastic. And what is this? And this is because the competition itself is letting students to solve an open-ended STEM challenge problem and prepare a thesis defense of 15-page paper. So also, it is not just a problem and a solution. It is a problem with multiple approach to the solution. For example, if you think about it, if you go to the previous year problem, this is mission to Mars, what's for dinner? And if you could see it, the question is asking for multiple approach, multiple aspects of the problem. You can talk about how many people you're going to take on the flight to the Mars, on the first flight, and also what type of food you're going to take, how much, and what variety, and what is the optimal food supply you can actually take on the first flight to sustain the crew for some time before the next additional crew members come by. So there is multiple aspects to this problem, and we're not asking for the students to just like say, Okay, find the solution. We are asking the students to find a solution. And one more thing is the students also have an opportunity to talk to someone in that career and talk about what type of mathematics they use in this type of careers and what the student have to be doing right now in order to go to that career and pursue that career. So all those are great opportunities for the students to think about their future careers when they are in the first 2 years of college. And they will write a 15-page formal paper with APA guidelines. And whatever the computer programs they write and all those things, they can put as appendix. So, but the main paper is 15-page limit. So who could really do this competition? Any student who is interested in exploring mathematics through research and modeling. One thing I want to say, when you hear the word research, people think, okay, that is like a PhD kind of research. Research can come in so many different ways. Browsing through things and getting information is kind of research for some level of school below 8th graders. And after that, thinking about that information, what they presented. So they can, research could be in multiple levels. So in this particular competition, we are thinking how our students in first 2 years of college curriculum in the mathematics, they can use that in the problem and find a solution. And to any college within the 8 regions of AMATYC can either find an individual student or team of 2 or 3 students could participate. And the complete list of eligibility is in the web page, which I will go over towards the end of the webinar. Each student is eligible to compete if they have not earned a 2-year degree or higher, or if they're not achieved junior standing at a 4-year college. And part-time and dual enroll students are also eligible for this. So when this upcoming competition, the upcoming competition is going to be on March 18th, Friday, and it ends on April 4th, Monday. And this is the common complaint or common issue. People talk about it. Hey, our spring break is during that week. It is fine, because we cannot, we try to get this date for 3 weeks in order to accommodate everybody's thing. So even if it is 1 week of spring break, the students can work. Right now, because of pandemic, the students are fine with working with like online, having a Zoom call with the teammates. If they do not want to work during the spring break, they can always come back after the spring break and work for 2 more weeks. So they could do it. So we try our best to accommodate everybody's thing, but hope this works. And in future, we will also try to see from your feedback, we can change these things. But right now, it is for 3 weeks for this upcoming year. So we will do it. And the first round of evaluations is done over the summer by faculty members from each of the AMATYC region, 8 regions. And the final round will be evaluated by the professionals in the STEM field, and the regional winners, usually we will announce it during the fall, and the national grand prize winners will be presented an award during the AMATYC conference. And regarding the evaluation procedures, and we have like Karen Gaines, who will be talking after this, and she'll be explaining more about it. So now what? Since you know about this competition, now you could help sponsoring a team by getting involved as a faculty mentor. So what are the basic role of being a faculty mentor? You can talk about what is the benefits of participating in this research, and also why this competition could help them in the resume building, all those things, and making sure they're familiar with APA guidelines, and also talking about the importance of the team building and how to be productive within a team. That is a very important skills in the real world. So this competition can help the students in so many different ways, and making sure you're registering a team and ensuring that they're getting the competition problem on time, and also making sure they're not using any assistance outside their team, making sure that that is like approved assistance during the competition they're using it. So next we have is Karen Gaines, and she is the past SRL coordinator. She has been doing this for so many years, and she is an expert and rock star in this, and she'll be talking about evaluators.
All right. I want to start by saying those of you that are looking at this thinking, wow, this sounds great, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to be a faculty mentor yet, you might consider being an evaluator. As this says, it's kind of a way of getting your feet wet. I think about when I was going to be going up for promotion, I volunteered to be on the review team at my school so I could see what it looks like when people put in their portfolios for promotion. So then when I went up, I was prepared. Well, this would be the same kind of thing. If you're an evaluator, you would be reading these papers and seeing the level that the papers are and getting a better sense of the competition. So you may want to start as an evaluator first. And what that entails is after the competition's over, so April 4th of next year, it'll take a few days to get all the papers all kind of ready to go and doled out, but then you'll be given around 5-ish papers to read. We try to assign it by region because each region gets to choose their 3 regional finalists. If we don't have evaluators from a certain region, we have to pull people in from different parts of the country. You have 2 months to read this, so it's not asking a lot for 5 papers. Most people wait till the week that it's due to start doing it, but you have 2 months, so it doesn't have to interfere with you're trying to get your finals done. If some people are done in April, some early May. We tried to make this really flexible. And then if you want to go to the next slide, basically what you'll do, oh, I'm sorry, it'll be the one after this, but these are the 4 areas I'm sorry, go back. These are the 4 areas you'll be evaluating. The basic research they've done, the tools that they use, the mathematical models. Vinod mentioned that they are to research people that are in a field connected to that year's topic. So this year with the mission to Mars, it might have been people that work at NASA, or it could have been biologists or horticulturists, anybody that's connected with growing food, that kind of thing, nutritionists. So they do some research on the careers, and then of course, the final solution. And I just noticed I have all ones instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. Good editing. All right, so now if you go to the next slide, this is what it would look like as an evaluator. You will, for each paper that you read, you'll have an identifier. You do not know where the team is from. All of the identifying information is eliminated from the papers. So you'll just type that in, and then you see those 4 areas that I just talked about, and you just rate them A, B, or C. So A means this is fabulous. I think this is a team that should move on. This area they really covered well. B means they did pretty well. Could go either way. It wasn't fabulous, but it was okay. Or they receive a C. It means they really need work on it. This is not a paper, at least in this area, that should possibly move forward as a regional finalist. And then we ask to have 2 sets of comments. What did you really like about this paper? Complimenting the team. And then if there are some areas of improvement, especially if people got rated with a lot of C's, you may have some areas of improvement to help them and future teams from their college. And that's all that entails. The final round of evaluations, like was previously mentioned, are done by professionals in the field. We get different people each year to evaluate. We always have a math specialist, but we try to get people that are somewhat connected to the problem. So I would encourage you, again, if you're a little leery about being a faculty mentor right away, try being an evaluator. We need lots of evaluators. Try that out first and then move towards faculty mentor.
Thank you, Corinne. Appreciate it. So next we have the grand prize winner of the last year, and the team members are Maximus Cisneros and Nova Robles and Talal Zaini, with the faculty mentor, Professor Sekwang Chen from West Valley College. And they will be giving us some tips on how to prepare for the competition and what type of things we should consider, our students should consider on doing this competition. The first question for strategies and tips to be successful in the Student Research League: what advice do you have for students who would like to participate in SRL?
Okay, for SRL, there's like multiple areas and multiple different things. I think that that could use, you know, that we could advise other students to improve upon that we didn't do. I think the one fundamental like linchpin of everything that we could advise students to do is communication, especially in this kind of new, post-pandemic or current pandemic kind of paradigm that we're in. Communication, using like various, mediums like a Discord and working on Microsoft documents. I think being able to like key in on that and being able to work in like a synchronous manner, it goes a long way towards building up, creating the foundation for the paper, and subsequently building off of that to produce this paper that you can then submit.
Thank you, Maximus.
Yes, and I agree with Maximus. I was going to say the same thing. And an essential part of our success with this competition was teamwork, because Max and I and Noah had like immediate chemistry, and we were agreeing on everything. We had ideas about to solve the issue, the research paper. And an advice is to always communicate with each other, and especially listen to each other. Every idea is proposed by another team member. You should always listen to it and analyze it, and then make a decision together.
Wonderful. Thank you, Talal.
One more thing I would like to add. One piece of advice that I would have for students is to get comfortable with different subjects, because although this is a math, although this is a math paper, it's a lot more interdisciplinary. There's science involved, there's English. Getting comfortable with different subjects and learning how to communicate the math effectively, I think was a very key point in how we achieved a clear level of communication, I think, and I believe that that carried us up into the grand prize.
It's wonderful.
What I would like to add is preparation. Prior to releasing the question, the students all read the previous winning paper, and we had the librarian who actually spent an hour with us over Zoom to show students how to research in our library website. So they knew what they would have to do once they have the topic. And I think once we also have to dedicate that period of time, that we have about 17 days, and we sort of need to make sure we stay ahead in our other classes, so that during those 17 days we can dedicate the time. And we had basically 3 weekends, and it actually where it ended was where the beginning of our spring break. So the student planned these time, and we had before knowing the topic, had a plan. Where do we think we might want to get done during the first weekend, the second weekend, etc. So planning.
Wonderful. Yeah, that leads to, when we talk about 3 weeks, that leads to some of the questions here. What motivated the students to participate in SRL?
I think that for me, when I went into it, I wasn't even thinking about winning. And that was probably it came to a shock to me at the end of it. But originally, when I entered the competition, it was mainly because I was interested in getting experience in like writing a research paper and getting a feel for what that, entails, and how to work with a group in this like kind of unique problem that you haven't faced before. Because in like college, it's normal for you to do research projects, but to do a research project on this scale in like this time frame, it's something that it's not normal. It's not comfortable. So it's a way I thought of it as a way for me to expand my skill set.
Great.
Yeah, and and for me, I immediately said yes to the proposal to participate in the competition. Because I was like kind of waiting for something to come up so I can expand my knowledge and experience too. And I was glad that it was related to Mars, actually, because it's something that I'm very interested in. And I got excited when the problem came out first. I think Max was was the first to notice it.
Great, great.
Yeah, I have pretty much the same experience as Max and Talal. When I was first offered to join the SRL, I was kind of looking for something to do. There wasn't really much that we had to do, just because this was still during the middle of the outbreak, and there weren't that many opportunities available to see. I mean, I saw this opportunity and I grabbed it. I didn't really have very many expectations, but you know, it worked out in the end, and I'm very glad of the outcome.
Very good.
I can speak to what motivated me. Actually, I told the student, I have no experience with this. Like Karen said, I should have been an evaluator first, so I know what we're going into. And they were in my class. They actually were in my class in the fall. And I'm like, we have these amazing students. And I actually found, just by going to the AMATYC website, that I found this opportunity that's dedicated to only two-year college students. And I said, well, you guys want to give it a try? And they're like, okay, it's pandemic. We're not going anywhere. So there it was.
That's fantastic. Very cool. So the next question is about the 3 weeks thing we're talking about. How does students feel about the time commitment 3 weeks of the SRL?
Yeah. For me, I think it was enough to be challenging enough, because there was like some obstacles in the way, like exams and classes and everything else. So we had to focus on time management and organization and a lot of other things too.
Okay.
Yeah, so when like thinking about the time commitment, originally when we were looking at the problem, we were thinking like, the amount of pages that we would need to be writing. And I think from the first weekend to like the submission date, which is like by the end of the third weekend, that was around 2 weeks-ish for us. And so we were thinking like 15 pages, around 2 to 3 weeks-ish. That's almost like a page a day, barely. So like already like the expectation for the amount of things that you'd be doing is like, it's already setting on pretty early into the way it works. And also on top of that, the problem that was given had many approaches. And for us, we were kind of in a sense conditioned to a way of approaching a problem by like tackling all the problem sets at once, right? Like trying to research through brevity. And in a sense that kind of backfired because it just added a lot to our plate. So this would probably been one of the things I would advise future students to consider is you don't have to tackle every problem, just narrow in on the particular problems that you think you might be able to provide a unique solution or something that's very, particular to your research.
I definitely agree with that. If students approach this more pointedly, I think a lot of the other questions will be answered along the way. I think we may have been diverting our attention to too many tasks at hand. I did think this was intense, but I mean, we did go into this cold. This was our first time ever, and I mean, there were definitely things that we could have improved upon, like in terms of approaching a problem a lot more pointedly, looking at it maybe more specifically in a certain area instead of I guess splitting our attention and just reaching a surface level I guess understanding of certain of like very many topics.
Fantastic.
So
I think from a faculty perspective, one of the reasons why I thought this is doable is it's 3 weeks. So whatever it is, it will be done in 3 weeks. I looked back, we met over Zoom over the time period. And at one point I created a special Zoom just for this. So I looked back at my Zoom report. We met 12 and a half hours, but that's sort of a checkpoint. Where are we at? So over those 17 days, that's the minimum because we met before, and I think I created that somewhere later on when we started. But I know students spend a lot of time during those 3 hours, the 3 weeks, because it was a shared document, and I would peek at it and see where they're at. I would always see somebody on it. No matter when I'm looking at it, somebody's on it working on something. And they had to-do lists, they had things, notes, things they found. And then eventually they actually wrote a paper. So
This is great. I have a quick follow-up question on this.
Mhm.
So did you all meet like every day, or did you meet like every other day, or how does it work for 3 weeks?
I think at
I-
first, yeah, Max, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no, you go ahead. Yeah.
I thought at
Sorry.
first we met because I figured students are busy during the week. We said we would meet over the weekend. And then, of course, the last week, I think we were meeting every other day, and probably towards the end was probably every day to see where we're at. And the student would talk about it. Would you do this? And would you do that, so that we could finish this up?
That's cool. So approximately you guys spent around 12 hours, is that right? 12 to 13 hours during the 3 weeks, or?
Just to meet.
Just to meet on
Okay.
Zoom. We're not talking
Okay.
about working on the paper.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we were-
I'm just asking that question to making sure that how much time commitment a student should spend on it. That's what it is. That's great. Wonderful.
And we
I
were
think the
always
student- yeah.
chatting on Discord too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not just 12 hours, it's more.
Okay,
Mhm,
very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I think in terms of amount of time they spent, I asked them to log, but they didn't log. But you can give an estimate. But at the
Oh.
end, I
Oh,
think
we
Max,
lost count. We all lost
Yeah.
count.
Max said it was. I said 100 hours. He said, "Well, that sounds right."
Yeah, honestly, I lost count. The way
Yeah.
I work is typically like I'll set like a block of time, right? And you'll do like your section of writing for that time. You'll do your section of research, and then you'll set apart like the end of it, and you'll be like, okay, I'll close it out by this time. But then like doing that, you always get to the end of it, and you think like, will I remember this for tomorrow, or will I do this tomorrow? Let me just get it done right now. And it was just like a little bit of that every single time. So yeah, it just keeping clogs, it was very difficult because you could never really get yourself to remember to like log the end of your time. You always could just like do the beginning, and you kind of get lost in the end. So that was our issue, or at least my issue with that.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Okay, the next question is, what did you learn from the SRL participation experience?
So in terms of what I learned, I think that definitely what this revealed was a lot of my key flaws. I think it definitely just being able to expose yourself to these uncomfortable situations, you get to know yourself a way better. And you get to see what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. In the past, I had been complimented on my writing. And so when it came time to like designate tasks and like divide and conquer, and we started like allocating like the role for writer, I just, it seemed like it would fit for that, it would be a fit for me. So, and doing this experience, it's definitely kind of proven a lot of that skill set that I had the assumption or I had the belief of before. So yes, just getting to know yourself overall, definitely a good experience.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and for me, I always was good like in writing English essays or something. But for me, the challenging part was that I had to write an essay with mathematical modeling explanations. And so I learned a lot from Max and Noah especially. So I would think that I learned that listening is a very important part of like doing the most incredible work.
That's good. Very good.
And at least for me, I realized there was like what I learned was that there was a lot more that I was capable of than I had previously thought. I know like Max may have mentioned this earlier, but when we first started planning for the paper, we were dividing up different roles and like assigning them to different people. And as we started to actually work on it, those roles kind of started to blend together, and the lines were kind of blurred. Like we thought that, okay, either Max or I were going to take care of more of the writing, and then Talal was going to do the math. But again, we all ended up doing like some bit of mathematical modeling. We all did some kind of coding. We all pretty much just did the like writing. So I think there's a lot more that you can discover about yourself. Like, okay, you may have certain strengths, and you may not feel as comfortable with certain things, but once you get that experience, or once you have an opportunity to practice, you will start to notice yourself getting better, and you will start to notice like there's an untapped potential in yourself. So the one last piece of advice that I would also give to students is, be confident. Don't underestimate yourself. There's so much more that you can accomplish than you would have ever thought.
Well said. Great.
So as you can see, these are amazing students. And the most rewarding moment for me came, we submitted that on Zoom as well. So they had it all ready for me to go to over Zoom. I shared screen, submission, and the student said, "We can't believe we're doing research this early in our academic career." And that was the most rewarding moment for me. So.
That is right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's go to the next question. What would you do differently next time?
Yeah, I think just like the advice that we give to students, there's like so many avenues, so many things that we learned just from like, going through the storm. I guess going back to like what Noah said earlier, there was that whole idea of our roles kind of blending together. And I think that after thinking about this, I think that this was the result of like the communication aspect. It takes a lot to manage not only like 3 people, it takes a lot to manage their output and what their focus is on at that time, at that particular moment. And so like maybe in one section, you're writing one particular topic, in another section, you're investigating some other topic, but that leads to results that might be conflicting for the previous section. And now 2 different people are working on 2 different avenues. And so like that's maybe kind of taking the focus out of the paper. So definitely like maybe going into it with a better expectation of how we would designate roles, not necessarily upon like, not necessarily upon like what we would be doing like manually, whether it be writing or coding or mathematical models, but more towards like dividing it by section and being able to go in with the expectation that we would need to make these sections harmonize earlier on. That would have definitely been, I think, a better setup than what we walked into it with.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think we could have used like more outside resources, because we were at that time we were thinking about doing like interviews with someone outside, like a NASA astronaut, I believe it was, or SpaceX. And so I would think that yeah, so using a lot of outside sources could have been better for us, not just like researching online or something with papers. And doing interviews was a great idea, but unfortunately we didn't go with it.
Okay, just to follow up on that, when you guys talk about contacting people about these careers, and how does that work? Like, could you guys want to talk about it? Like, what type of things, when you contact them, what is the usual response? Do they respond, or do they really wait for 3 weeks and respond to you all? Do you guys want to talk about it, and what is the process so that can help other students?
Yeah, they definitely weren't answering quickly. So I remember Mrs. Chen was trying to contact them and see if it's possible to talk with them and ask them some questions.
Okay.
So on that, what I would do differently next time, I think a couple of things. One was Max already mentioned that I was watching them and going all over the map. And then I said it way too late that, you don't have to solve the entire breadth of the problem. You can focus on just one area and go there. And they're like, oh, really? Okay. So I should have said it much sooner. That's one thing. The other thing is there were people when we contacted them, they say, yeah, we would be willing to stand by and answer questions. But I think in retrospect, what I should have done is perhaps we plan a certain time. That is by the second week, weekend or something, that this time, if you can join Zoom, then student can ask various field expert questions. So because we have short time and the back and forth, we weren't able to end up setting up the actual interview time that we wish we had. So that would be something we would do differently.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Adding on to that, I think that definitely adding like a deadline for the interview would have probably been like a great idea, because going into it, I had like the whole thing of preparing for every interview with questions, and like to make those questions, you have to have at least some understanding of the topic. So you can at least ask the interviewer to go down in a certain particular path and get more specific information. But like by the time you feel comfortable doing that, you're already on like the last week, and your paper is starting to be wrapped up, and now you have to like polish it off, and now you're going to add another section on interviews. Like it doesn't compute. So yeah, definitely having that deadline or deadline set would have been great. Yeah,
That's a great tip. Fantastic. Anything else? All right. So what is your advice to someone who is going to participate in the SRL? But we talked about it a little bit, but we want to be more specific right now. Who want to be participating in the future competitions? What are some advice you would give?
I think that funny enough, I think even though you got it like right on the head, like as you introduced us, like there's like all this experience, there's all this like, this is like a perfect way to demonstrate your ability to work with people, your ability to work with in a research setting and be able to produce a paper. Like if you think about it, you don't lose. And that's, if you have that perspective, you won't lose. Right? Like the only thing you're losing is time, but regardless, you're still getting something out of it. And this is nonetheless going to be a kind of a nice feather in your cap to be able to stay to potential employers or fellow, colleagues whenever you go down this like probable path of research. So, yes.
Well said, Max.
Yeah, so I agree with him. You won't lose anything if you try to do your best while working with your team and listening to each other and collaborating. And one like specific advice I would give is to, instead of chatting, just make sure you try to meet as much as possible, because I've noticed that, like, for example, chatting on Discord or something takes more time than just meeting, because meeting we can do things much faster than just chatting.
That's absolutely true. Great.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything. I think we've covered it all. Yeah, definitely meeting, I guess, in person or like on a call. Going into it with, I mean, don't go in to lose, or you go in to win, but at the same time, go in there with an open mind, be optimistic. Again, this is honestly a pretty good deal. The Student Research League, you're going in there, you're getting research. If you win, then you get even more, but already there's so much that you can learn just from writing a 15-page research paper. It's amazing, honestly.
Cool. Karen?
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
My advice, since we now have had 4 years of the competition, is to have, once the group is formed, have them go through the previous year's problems. I know that was mentioned earlier, but I think that's really important. To make it kind of like a trial run of how would we have approached this? What would we have done? And then looking at the winning papers from each of those years too, then to say, wow, I can see how they did that differently. And we actually, 2 years ago, our winner was, or 1 year, I don't remember, was a single person that did this all by themselves. So there's completely different experiences, I'm sure. We really wanted people to be able to be in groups, but it's possible for a single person. But if you do have this group, I think it's really important to start with conversations like that before the competition begins.
Yeah, and we do have a group of students who are very dedicated and they're very flexible, and worked well with each other. Like was mentioned earlier, they had set roles, but they were flexible to pick up something that needed to be done, and that worked out really well. And for me, during those 3 weeks, those were the most exciting thing, to see where they were at and if they needed anyone or anything. So
On that note, I think my Professor got it is onto that there, where it's in a sense like you got to be flexible, and to be flexible sometimes it like there won't be like any momentum. It will like be perceived as like there won't be momentum, maybe because everybody has particular ideas of how things should go and nobody's like, you know, keen on starting something. So in a sense, maybe go into it like expecting to be almost like an instigator, right? Like start writing things down, even if they like are like completely like maybe even simplistic or maybe foolish. So that way you just have something to like start the ball rolling, right? Because I guess a lot of groups get into that problem where like they expect other people that other people in the group to like actually begin the paper or actually begin the assignment, and then they tag on. But like if everyone thinks like that, the paper kind of comes to a standstill as everyone's kind of like in the bystander effect. So yes, being an instigator is definitely a good start.
Very cool, very cool. Good, great. So that gets the end of like the grand prize winners tips and strategies. Thank you so much, particularly Max, Talal, and Noah for being here. That is amazing. And Professor Serkwang for mentoring all those people, great students. That's amazing. So our next guest and speaker is Professor Pat Riley, and he's from Hopkins Community College. And he has a great experience of promoting SRL and mentoring SRL. So we would like to hear from him on tips on recruiting and encouraging student participation in SRL. And it is open to everybody. You all could participate in this. Oops.
Thank you. First of all, one thing I didn't hear our three students mention about what they've gained from it is, I mean, they got to participate in a webinar with professional mathematicians. So, I mean, that, you know, we were kind of joking about it, but that's something they can put on their resume. I mean, they participated in an professional academic webinar, and I thought they did a wonderful job. So Max and Talal and Noah, really, thank you so much. If there's been students that have participated in an AMATYC webinar before, I'm not aware of it. So we really enjoyed having you and hearing what you had to say. When we first saw this, my college, we've been in, it's a pretty small college. We have around 2,000, a little over 2,000 students. When we first saw this, myself and a colleague here, we teach a lot of our courses with project-based learning. And so when we saw this, we were like, oh my gosh, this is right up our alley. We have to do this. The first year we saw it a little late, and so we didn't plan very well. We had one team of 3. They were students in my class, and one of the students kind of disappeared between the time he signed up and when it was time to do it. Another student really backed out, and so one student ended up doing it, and it was not good. But well, we got our foot in the door. The next year, we had more teams participate, and Karen, that student you were mentioning, was from our school, Ashley Lesher, in 2019. She worked by herself and was the overall winner. We were immensely proud of her. One thing we've done at our school is we've bought into it, not just those of us in the math area. The way we get students to participate is primarily from my class and Ms. McCormick's class. We give projects in our classes. So at this time of year, we tell the students if they want to form a group and work on this during that time frame, we'll replace a regular grade in our course with participation. We have to be a little bit lenient on grading, because if I'm teaching a calculus class and the problem is maybe statistics based, you know, we grade it leniently for our course, but we've had a lot of teams participate. We usually get about 10 to 15 teams from our school. The college has invested in paying the registrations. We've gotten a lot of, the first year we almost messed up because we didn't see the rule that said each team had to have an individual mentor. And so Karen emailed me like 2 days before the deadline. And so we scrambled and we found mentors really quickly. But my division is the math and science division. And just about everybody in our division has agreed to be a mentor and has been a mentor. But beyond that, we've had one of our business teachers. She mentors every year. One of our electrical engineering faculty members has participated. But we've gone even beyond that. We have 2 of our English faculty every year that host a webinar on how to write papers. And so they show the students how to academically, write a research paper. Our history professor has a doctorate, so he does a webinar for the students every year about how to write an academic paper. And one of our librarians, as I can't remember who said it, but our librarian does a webinar on library resources. So we're getting more and more of our campus involved. So it's not just a STEM, a math thing. We're trying to find ways to incorporate different people in different areas of our college. And one thing I've noticed doing that, especially when our English faculty do their session, many of our students would not consider themselves heavy STEM majors, but they write. I mean, they're more English people. So when they see the English faculty being involved in this, they get a little more excited. It's like, oh, okay, so I can, I'm a good writer, so I can be the writer for the team if somebody else will do the number crunching and somebody else will put the graphs together. Like the 3 gentlemen mentioned, we've seen a lot of good experiences. Some groups decide that they're not able to get it done as well as they want. But after that first year, the last 3 years, we've had some wonderful participation. Actually, last year, one of our teams was not from a math class. It was a biology class. Our biology teacher announced it to his class, and he said, hey, I've got 3 students that want to participate, and they were one of the regional finalists from Kentucky. So yeah, we keep trying to find ways to grow it on our campus each year. It's become a big deal on our campus, and we're really proud of the work the students are doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pat. That's a great tip, actually. That can help so many people. So I hope we answered all the questions. Hopefully we covered everything, but we'll hear from the audience if there is any questions. I'm just going to go over the chat.
I think we're good. There was only one question so far, and Karen answered that.
Okay.
A couple comments. Someone said they're upset that a student missed the Mars competition last year. Well, Connie, last year it was how to get to Mars. Maybe this year it'll be how to get back from Mars. Maybe Matt Damon got stuck out there again, and this year's competition will be how to bring him home. There's a question.
Yeah.
Vinod, did you see that question?
Yeah, it's posted. The problem is posted online on the Friday of the competition, and then the submission has to be by the following Monday. And all that information is on the amatyc.org website under student leagues, the Student Research League. All of the rules, an explanation of what a faculty mentor is. There's even slides to show at affiliates if you want to do a presentation at your affiliate conference, if you have one, to recruit people. And then on my.amatyc.org, we've started, last year I started a community for people to be able to share information with each other, and the problems also posted up there. So yeah, Vinod's got the AMATYC site out.
So this is the AMATYC site for the Student Research League. All the information's all right here. And any questions, please, you can shoot an email to srl@amatyc.org. It will come to me, and then I will answer promptly. And also the official rules for the competition. If you have any questions, that is right there. And the eligibility clearly is explained here. What is junior status, and earn fewer than 63 college credits, all those things. And if you have any questions on that, please email us. That would be cool. And then evaluation process is right there. And as Karen was mentioning, the best way to start is looking into the past competition questions. It's right there. And you have a winning paper. Honestly, I'm saying that is not usually available on other modeling competition websites. This is really, really cool. So you guys can see the grand prize winners paper, how they approached the problem, and that can actually help your students to see what type of research we are talking about, what type of approach, what type of expectations we're talking about. That can help the students don't shy away because of the word called research. So, any other questions? All right, this is wonderful. I would like to really thank Kiran and particularly the students, again, Max, Noah, and Talal, and their faculty mentor for doing all this. Thank you so much. And Pat, thank you for accepting this. That was the short notice. You guys are all great. Thank you so much.
Looks like we have one more question in the chat.
Yeah, so Sophia asked, can the faculty member be a science faculty? Yes.
Yes.
Well, so thank you, Vinod, for presenting this, and our students, Max, Talal, Noah, Professor Chen, thank you for being here with them and working with them. Karen, thank you for your help in the past and tutoring Vinod. Those in attendance, if we could show our appreciation for all the panelists with a word of thanks in the chat. If there are no other questions, the recording of this and the PowerPoint will be posted on the AMATYC site and at my AMATYC for you to reference, later in the year. A lot of good information. It might not be a bad idea, those who are going to do it, to have your teams watch this video in addition to looking at the past winners. A lot of good information here. One thing it didn't come up here that we talked about ahead of time, Karen mentioned there is a rule that you cannot win twice. So if you're intimidated by these three fine gentlemen, know that they can't compete again this year. So, which is good because they look like an impressive team. I'm glad we don't have to compete against them this year. All right, so thank you all for attending. Once again, thanks for all the panelists for being here. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you for having us.
Well, take care.
Thank you.